Hey everyone, Nate Duckett, Mayor of Farmington. On today's episode of the Mayor's Table, we're going to be sitting down with the Director of the San Juan County Communications Authority. That would be 911 to all of us out there. We'll be talking to Nicole Brown. She'll be giving us some information on ways that we can support 911, make their calls easier. Also, just the broad scope of what they do at the Communications Authority. It's great information, good info for all of us to carry with us. Stay tuned. Hi everyone, welcome to the Mayor's Table. I hope you're having a great start to your fall season. With us today is our friend Nicole Brown, the Director of the San Juan County Communications Authority. Thank you, Nicole, for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, 911's an important component of public safety. That's kind of where all the calls are coming in and where the calls are going out. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to provide some education and understanding to the community on what exactly the Communications Authority does, how it does it, why it does it, and all the ins and outs, plus a couple really important components, the Everbridge and Smart911, which I know we're going to get into it.
Yeah.
I think that'll be really important for folks. But you've had a long career here in public safety, not just with the Communications Authority, but tell us a little about it.
Yeah, so I started in 911 in 2007. I like to say it's the family business, just public safety in general. So my grandfather's retired state police captain, and then he was San Juan County sheriff. And I have an uncle who was also sheriff. And then my dad was with Farmington Fire for several years and retired as a battalion chief. And really, that's genuinely how I started in 911. I was at my dad's house, and I overheard his radio, and I was looking for a job that was more of a career, not just, retail or, the jobs you do when you're young and you're not sure where you want to go. And I overheard the radio and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I think I could do that. And when I started, I fell in love. It's the coolest job ever. So I did that for several years and, worked in several different positions, kind of promoted my way up to assistant supervisor and was helping a lot in the training program. And then I was probably experiencing a little bit of burnout, but I didn't really realize it at the time, but also just kind of looking for a little bit of a change. And so I started with the Farmington Police Department as the public information officer. So I did that for a few years. And then I came back to 911 and as the director, and I've been doing that for 3 years now, three and a half.
It's funny when we go into these shows, and I had no idea that you were related to Troy Brown.
I am, yeah.
I did not know that.
I'm his daughter.
I didn't know that your grandfather was sheriff and your uncle was a sheriff.
Con Brown was my grandfather, and then Michael Davidson was my uncle. So.
Okay. Well, now it's all coming together.
Yeah.
I love Michael.
And then I guess I should claim him too. David Karst is also my cousin, and he was a chief in Bloomfield.
You are serious. It is in your blood.
It's the family business.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, it's so good to learn that about you and your family, and just appreciate their public service and your public service. That's really cool. Yeah, so it's funny. Yeah, you mentioned, looking for a job, and I tell my kids and the kids that I talk to in school, it's really important for you to get into a position, in my opinion, where you're dealing with other people. You're dealing with customers. There's an expectation of service. You're being held accountable for something in retail and restaurants and those kind of places. But 911, Nicole.
Yeah, you're really accountable.
You are really accountable there.
It is. I fell in love right away because the least that's expected of you is 100%. I mean, you need to be accurate. You need to be timely. You need to be making good decisions.
Sure.
And so just being 100% on, you're what your 100% is every day might be different because we're all human. But, when you answer a phone call or radio traffic, you're expected to be accurate and to be on point. And I just thought that was so cool to just be amazing all the time.
Well, certainly from the perspective of somebody calling in, right? We're calling in because there's something going on that we're concerned about. It could be a wide variety of things that may be concerning and why we're calling. I can tell you my experiences in calling range from, hey, we've got a water break.
Yeah.
We need to send somebody out. There's a traffic light not working correctly. There's a loose dog. or there's a down subject, or there's a drunk driver, or there's a reckless driver on the road.
Yeah.
And then they kind of escalate from there. Medical emergencies, crime happening, and all those kind of things. So yeah, the expectation from the public is the person that they're speaking to has all the tools readily available, and they know how to use them. They're proficient at using them to make sure that they're communicating that information to the authorities who we are anticipating will be coming out to help us address whatever that concern is. So it's a big role. Just even thinking about those calls right there, from waterline breaks to lost, missing or animals running on the street, and then all the way up. Yeah,
it's a big range, right? And we never know what's on the other end of that phone.
Right.
So the phone rings, we answer, and we have to just be able to think on our feet and go wherever that takes us. So I was a supervisor on the floor the day of the Aztec High School shooting, and I will never forget that when I was listening back to some of the calls, the dispatcher who dispatched that call over the radio was on the phone with a gentleman who was trying to figure out where to take expired fire extinguishers. And she's, talking to him, and I'm sorry, sir, hold on just a moment, I have to talk on the radio. And she's dispatching out an active shooter at a school.
Oh, wow.
And so, to me, that's the perfect example of this really low, priority thing to the most priority and the highest level. So it is, we never know. And it was really, the gentleman was so kind, and when I listened to the recording, and he says, well, it sounds like you're really busy. She goes, yes, sir, we have a shooting right now. And he goes, oh my gosh, I'll let you go. And he just got off the phone and was like, oh my gosh. But what makes me so proud of all of our operators is their customer service. Her customer service never wavered.
Yeah.
She wasn't irritated with this gentleman, even though she's handling these two different priority level things, she was still giving him great customer service and being kind. And because to him, it was a problem he needed fixed right then, he was trying to find help for it. So yeah, they never cease to amaze me. All of our operators are just, when it really gets hectic and busy, there's big events going on, it's so cool to be in the room and watch how they come together and they just start handling things, and the whole room just works together towards, the safest solution we can get to. So it's always amazing.
Well, it's interesting, kind of that catch-all, right? I mean, any information I need, I'm going to call non-emergency, hopefully not emergency, but non-emergency dispatch. I imagine there's quite a few calls that come into 911 that should go to the other number.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally we'll get that call. You answer 911, what's the location of your emergency? And they go, well, it's not an emergency, but I didn't know who else to call. And you're like, well, okay.
Right.
And then we always have the really sweet people who will call on non-emergency, and they're like, I think I'm having a heart attack. I'm really sorry to bother you. And you're like, no, that's really what we're for. It's what we're for. Please call us. So
what is the typical number of calls that you receive through the dispatch center in a month? I mean, I know for Farmington Police and Fire, typically it's like 7,000 for PD, and Fire's somewhere around 1,700.
Yeah, I don't know the monthly breakdown off the top of my head, but I know in a year we're anywhere from 275,000 to 300,000 calls a year. So, and that includes non-emergency and 911 altogether. So we definitely take more non-emergency calls than 911 calls, which is perfect. I mean, that's what we want, is people to be utilizing that number. But yeah, it's a good amount of calls every year.
I mean, just think about that volume. You said 300,000 calls in a year. And so people oftentimes will ask, why do we have so many police officers? And you know, we need more, but they're still interested, like between the county and the city and the state and everybody who's represented here. Well, the fact that your little 46,000, like for Farmington, 46,000 person population, the county's 123,000, but on a weekend, that's 300,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it's double or tripled. I mean, it's a lot of folks, which means there's going to be a higher demand. There's going to be a lot of other things going on. Which puts a lot of pressure on you all to perform. How many people currently work as dispatchers for the center?
So our full complement, full staffing, we should have 32 dispatchers, including like our supervisors, and then I think 10 or 11 call takers.
Okay.
We've increased that number, and so I don't know exactly what. But right now we are short 7 dispatchers and short 5 call takers. So we're shorter staffed than we'd like to be.
Yeah.
We just closed a hiring cycle, so we'll do interviews next week, and hopefully we'll get some good candidates out of that cycle, and then we'll open another one in the spring. So.
Okay. So no hiring right now, but spring would be a good time for people to pay attention. I'm sure that's posted on your websites, or where would you find that at?
Yeah, 911savealife.com is our website, where you can just find, what kind of candidate we're looking for. We also talk about, if you're not from this area, what it's like to live in this area. And then it gives you a link. You fill out like an interest form, and that email goes directly to me. And then I answer with, here's some work on your typing skills. You've got to be able to type at least 40 words per minute in order to work with us, just because things are happening quickly.
Sure.
You got to be able to keep up and get everything documented. And then, the other requirements. And then benefits, to working with us, because we are on, PERA, retirement, and the other benefits that we have available. So
yeah.
Get all the information there.
Very interesting. Well, I encourage people, if they've got a passion and a compassion, really compassion for folks, and have that kind of steady hand, and be able to maintain their emotions in some very emotional situations, to consider that. Yeah,
if you're the calm person in the group that everyone turns to, you should come look at a career in 911.
Well, our 911 center is actually a combination, and I think for each of the entities, whether it's Bloomfield, Aztec, Farmington, the county, maybe at some point, do they all have their own 911 centers? And now we've got this joint agreement, so that's what the Communications Authority is that joint agreement?
Yeah. So, as late 80s, early 90s is, I think, when the discussion started to consolidate. But before that, Farmington Fire, Farmington PD, they had their own.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was even separate.
They eventually got together before we fully consolidated. But Aztec, PD had their own, Bloomfield. So, and the county sheriff's office, everything was separate. And when you think about that in how connected all of our communities are, that puts barriers, up for law enforcement when they're trying to work together. You have to call this other number and be like, hey, this thing's coming your way, or, hey, we need help. We're right on city limit line. Can you come in? And so now with consolidation, so we consolidated in 1994 is when we created the Communications Authority. And so we're governed by a joint powers agreement, and it's all of the municipalities and the county all have seats on our board, and they govern us. And our fiscal agent is the county. So we're funded by a tax that the county collects for us, and we share with EMS. Mm-hmm. And so since 1994, which at the time in the 90s, early 90s, to consolidate like we did was really a new thing. There wasn't a lot of that going along. There wasn't a lot of consolidated centers. But now it's kind of, that's the model that everyone's trying to achieve. So, and it's hard work to consolidate. I think it took a lot of time, a lot of cooperation. George Duncan and Danny Carpenter did a lot of work in order to get us consolidated. But now we wouldn't have it any other way. It's the way to do it. And it's beautiful, right? If something's happening, we just lean over to our partner and we're like, hey, this vehicle pursuit is coming into your city. Let your guys know. Or, hey, we need backup. My guy needs another officer to help him on this call. And it just happens. They're right there. So
if I call in from Farmington, is there a specific person that call directs to? They know I'm calling from Farmington. Do the towers basically send it to a particular person in your office so they know it's Farmington? Or
no, phone rings, everybody is in there. So we have call takers and dispatchers. So call takers prioritize 911 calls, which they have kind of a different ring, like a higher pitched ring. So we know that it's a 911 call. And so they'll prioritize the 911s. And the way the location information gets to us is new. So we just updated that. The state of New Mexico. So on everyone's cell phone, there's a 911 tax. And that goes into a grant fund at the state level. And the Department of Finance has a 911 bureau. And they coordinate how that fund gets dispersed throughout the state. So they used the funds from that to implement a statewide EZNet, which is an emergency services internet. And it essentially, when we migrated to it, what we went from was 911 calls being delivered on telephone lines, which could really only deliver us phone data and limited location data to calls being delivered on a voice over internet. And so now we can get really rich data from your phone. Before, like Uber knew where you were, DoorDash knew where you were, but 911 didn't.
Yeah.
Because of the way the system that we were delivering the calls on couldn't handle that kind of information. Now the system can. So we can get that location information from your phone just like Uber or DoorDash.
Okay.
Which is huge.
Because they used to triangulate it.
And we're rural, and so sometimes it wasn't always accurate.
Yeah.
They were getting better at making it more accurate, but it was, we didn't always know where you were. And so if you didn't know where you were, it was tough.
No problem. Yeah.
But now we get that location data from your cell phone, which is so powerful. And so the phone just rings in the room, and whoever is not busy answers the phone. So call takers try to get it first. If all the call takers are busy, then the dispatchers will start to pick up the phone. So the dispatchers are responsible for the radio and the phone at the same time, which is a lot, right? That's the most stressful part, is when you have multiple conversations going on. But anybody in the room will answer it as they take the call. The information that they put into our computer system will then put that call on whichever dispatch screen it needs to be on. So if it's a fire and EMS call, it'll show up on that dispatcher screen. If it's a call in Farmington, it'll show up on the Farmington dispatcher screen. But anybody in the room can look at any card.
Okay.
So that's how we become really collaborative. So recently we just had a really bad crash over the weekend. And a deputy was the first person on scene. It was in the Farmington city limits, but a deputy was driving by. And so, we were able to everything just worked.
Sure.
Because of we're, being combined in a center together.
Now, state is not a part of our joint power agreement.
State police is not, no. Okay. It's just purely San Juan County. We've dispatched.
So how does that get worked out? Because I'm still going to call 911. How does it go to? It goes to you, and I say, here's my location, and then you route it to the state?
So if it's a state police jurisdiction call, then state police dispatch, they're like we call them a secondary PSAP. Okay. So we take all 911 calls and we transfer them off to someone else if it's not our jurisdiction. So
that could be Navajo PD, state PD.
Yeah. Just depending on, and I would love to be a secondary PSAP where I don't have to answer the initial call. Right. But no, being a primary PSAP is, what we are. And it's so good to be able to provide that service to the community and be, the stopping point. Because when people call 911, they're experiencing their worst day. And so it is so great to provide that service of being like, okay, I will help you. I will help you fix this thing that has overflown your life or,
right.
over, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but.
I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like you said, it could be their worst day.
Yeah.
Yeah, no telling. Interesting. Well, there are some things I think people can do that would help the dispatchers, and one of those things is the Everbridge. Well, Smart 911 really is the part that I think we could all play to assist, correct? Or am I getting
no, Smart. So, we have two systems that we offer that we pay for. The Communications Authority pays for it, and so it's free to our community. So the first is Smart 911. You go to smart911.com, create a profile, and you can attach whatever you want us to know to that profile. So if you want pictures, of kids or elderly family members who maybe wander off from home and get lost, vehicles, pictures of your house if it's hard to find, or your driveway, things like that, you can put it up there. You can put lists of medication, pictures of animals, anything you think would be helpful, gate codes, anything like that you want us to know. And we cannot view that information unless you dial 911.
Okay.
When you dial 911, that information will populate. We can see it, and then we can pass that information on to first responders. We can, there's a link that they can follow that we put into the card that they can see all that. And then it's just really helpful. What sold us on it was a story of an autistic boy who, whenever he was scared, he would hide in a closet. There was a structure fire in the home. The mother called 911 and then passed out due to smoke inhalation. So she couldn't give any information to the 911 operator. But they saw that they had put that in the profile that he would hide in that particular closet. And so firefighters were able, instead of doing a search of the house and finding him, they went right to the boy and they were able to get him. So that, if it saves one life, Smart911 is so helpful. And it's just helpful to you. Something, you can add as many phone numbers as you want to your profile. So something like if you have a family member that has a medical situation, you can add your number to their profile. So, if they say, I need you to call my sister or whatever, we can see that information and get it and help however we can. And then the second thing we have is Everbridge. Everbridge is really important because it's how we notify you when they're, mass notification of an emergency situation. So if you need to evacuate or shelter in place, we do it through Everbridge. And you don't have to sign up for it. We can force those notifications to go through your phone, like Amber Alerts and things like that. But if you just want to be in the know because you're curious, you can sign up. And when you sign up, you can tell us how you want to receive that notification. So if it's by text, call, email, you can kind of tailor it a little more so it doesn't have to blow up in your hand, your phone, when we push something out. And Everbridge is another way to, if you want to sign up to be notified of something in a loved one's area, you can be. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, those situations come up. So, for example, when Central Texas experienced all of its flooding this last summer, I had some people ask questions about, well, how does the city go about notifying residents if, the Animas or the San Juan or something like that's going on? And I told them it's all through your phone. I mean, once we've determined that the emergency is happening, that message is going to go out. And I mean, there's not a horn. We don't have a flood horn. We don't have those kind of things. But but your phone, everybody's got their phone. So that to me seems the most efficient way of getting that out with directions on what they need to be doing.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happens on our end for it to happen, but we can draw kind of geographical boundaries. And if you travel in or out of that boundary, then it will alert you that you need, there's flood advisory or whatever it is that's going on.
There's been some changes.
Big changes, yeah.
Tell me about these changes.
So the first one, I kind of talked about it a little bit, is the change of how 911 calls are delivered, which is just huge. So now that we're getting that really rich data and we have the capability to receive even more. So before we weren't able to receive text to 911, but with this new system, we will be able to. So the whole state
When will that go into effect?
I'm not sure of the exact date. So the whole state isn't on the system yet. We've got like 90% of the state on the EZNet. There's a few outlying agencies that they're the last group to come on. So once everybody's on the EZNet, then part of our state, in order to receive the grant funds from the state, we will have to have a text to 911 policy in place. So I'm anticipating that it will be soon. Right now, we can text with you through the Smart911 app. And then also we use a third-party app called Rapid SOS. And we can also initiate, but we have to initiate the text. Okay. So you can call 911, we can see it through the Rapid SOS portal, and then we can text you if you've disconnected with us or something like that, then we can follow up. But once text to 911 is initiated, then we'll be able to start receiving pictures, video, all of that stuff, which is powerful tools.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to, if someone's like, I don't know where I am, and they can send you a picture of a building or the landscape, and our dispatchers, contrary to what some people think, we all live here locally. Right. You're not calling a call center somewhere else. We're all here in San Juan County. They can maybe try to help you figure out where you are. We should get really rich data, location data from your phone anyway. But, and then I just think about the evidence that we can collect for officers and firefighters. During fires, we can see what side of the building is burning and get really accurate information from callers.
That's great.
They're worried, there's just in the industry of 911, we're a little bit worried about dispatchers seeing things because up until this point, we've never seen things, we only hear it. So there's a lot of capability that's coming with it with AI where they can automatically blur images and dispatchers can choose to unblur them if they want to see it, which I like that power right? That they have control over what they see and what they don't.
Is,
Because the frequency of our exposure to trauma is really high for a 911 operator. In San Juan County, the average time a law enforcement or fire and EMS spend on a call is about an hour. And the average time a dispatcher spend on a call is about 1.5 to 3 minutes. So
you're getting the first emotion involved in that call.
It's very raw.
Right. Well, it'll be interesting with being able to share pictures and videos. I mean, it changes the conversation on the phone, first and foremost. But yeah, it's going to be really impactful when it comes to those responding to that, to be able to have some firsthand knowledge of exactly what they're facing. I think about barricaded subjects and situations like that where they can get a really good sense of, I don't have to poke here, poke there, I know where they're at, kind of thing. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I like to see the efficiency grow with improved, technologies that are everybody's using them anyway. I mean, everybody's filming everything.
It's true.
Yeah.
Be ready. Everybody
Right,
got to be
different.
camera ready all the time.
Yeah. Well, very interesting. We've talked a little bit about recruiting and careers. I mean, you give a perfect example of somebody who's worked up and through the system all these years and clearly have a passion for what you do and recognize it as such a critical public service. I just want to tell you I appreciate you and I appreciate all your dispatchers and call takers and everybody who's involved in being in that first responder role for individuals calling in and being able to get them the help that they need when they're calling it in. Other things you want to make sure we bring forth today?
Yeah. Well, did you know that 911 operators aren't considered first responders?
They're not considered first responders.
They are not classified as first responders by the federal level. So the Office of Labor, I'm going to get this wrong. The OMB is the acronym for it.
Okay.
But it's, their list of job classifications classifies 911 operators as clerical employees. And at the state level, we are really trying to work the reclassification effort through PERA, the PERA, our retirement program. So we are currently classified as just a general para, like clerical, and we want to be moved to the police plan, which means we can retire sooner, 5 years sooner. And it's surprising to most people when you tell them that we are technically not recognized as first responders because most people assume we are.
Well, from the insurance perspective, I mean, from a workers' comp role, I see that clerical, somebody who's sitting at the desk, they're not leaving the workplace. It's pretty safe, so to speak, for an employee.
Climate control.
But it's the mental rigor that you're dealing with on a daily basis and being able to handle those things that really, I mean, the wear and tear on the individual that has to be taken into account. And like to your point, the minute to 3 minutes that they're on the call with somebody, it's, the person taking that call is being impacted dramatically, depending on what the call is. So I imagine that within your group specifically, there are a lot of added, mental health resources that are being provided to those call takers and dispatchers. I would see that as mandatory, obviously, in this day and age. But giving you that opportunity, I could see that need. You are a first responder.
Yeah.
You play a critical role. You're the one tying the call, the emergency call, to the person who's going to be out there.
Yeah, we are their access to the system, right? That's who we've trained people to call when they're having an emergency, is to call 911, and then we've set the expectation that a trained professional will be on the other end.
Sure.
So and then, we're access to the criminal justice system, but then also we are making life and death decisions. Dispatchers are deciding who to send within protocols and parameters, and we try to lay things out for them so it's easy to make the decisions and they can make them quickly. But they are, making those decisions and having police, fire, and medics. Police sometimes do, but fire and medics for sure do not ever respond to a scene that a dispatcher hasn't already touched. We have already given instructions. We have, told suicidal people to put weapons away and walk out to talk to the officers. We have, told people to identify weapons and, things. We have given instructions, and when they arrive on the scene, it is a different scene than from when we picked up the phone. So the impact that we have is large, and it feels like a slight that hurts our heart a little bit that we're not considered first responders.
Sure. Well, if we can help in any way from my office, please let me know.
Yeah, I'm going to come talk to your city council soon.
You should come talk to us because I think we could all appreciate what they're doing and the need for that change. So.
Yeah, at the federal level, there is a bill. It just recently passed the Senate. It's called the 911 Saves Act, and it is moved on to the House. But we'll see. Right now, I think our federal government is dealing with a lot of things.
Appears that way.
And I don't know if this is gonna be a priority for them, but we sure would hope that it was. And we have gone, my deputy director, Crystal Ariano, and I have gone to an event that the National Emergency Number Association throws every year. 911 goes to Washington. So we've made really good relationships with all of our representatives from New Mexico. And I was really proud that when the SAVES Act passed the Senate, both Heinrich and Lujan were sponsors on the bill. So I was really proud of New Mexico, and I think all of our representatives sponsor it as well. So
wonderful. It's
exciting that they value us for sure in New Mexico. And then on the state level, I think that our reclassification effort has a good legs on it. We're making headway. This will be our third year trying to get something moving. And I think Para's talking to us more, and I think that everyone understands that it needs to happen. So now it's just how does it happen,
right.
And we got to work out all those details. But
yeah, when you deal with Para, it changes the dynamic of what that conversation is for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, I'll just say this: 911 is the emergency number. 334-6622 is the non-emergency phone number.
Yes.
Know the difference.
Please.
Yeah, know the difference.
Yeah.
And then understand that the questions that are being asked of you are important questions. They're not redundant questions. They're not just something that they are like to do. It's part of a protocol. Please answer the questions to the best of your ability. Mm-hmm. And then what we had talked about before coming on the air is the fact that there's somebody taking or asking the questions while somebody else is dispatching to your location.
Yes. Most of the time, while someone is asking you the questions, someone else has already gotten on the radio and they're sending help. So the questions don't slow anything down. They're not going to delay the response in any way. Sometimes our operators are taking the call and dispatching out, but they'll tell you, hold on just a second, I've got to talk on the radio. So they're sending that out as you are talking to them. My people are amazing multitaskers, and they can do a lot of things at once. And it's never a delay for us to ask the questions we do. And right now we use a medical protocol and a fire call protocol, and we are about to implement a police one. Okay. So everything we do will be very standardized, very consistent, and it'll give really good data back to our responders. So, we give kind of codes of how they're responding, and it makes it safer for them, right? It helps prioritize what should they run code to, because it's risky to run code through town in the middle of the day. Right. We don't want to cause any accidents. So it helps them prioritize what should be run code to and what they shouldn't. And then also at the end of the day, when they're running their reports, they can get really great data from that scripted protocol of, which calls had weapons involved, which calls, had multiple parties involved, things like that they can really drill down and see a clearer picture of what it is they're responding to every day.
I'm going to add one more component to this, because a lot of times I'll get phone calls from individuals who will say something like, this has been an issue here for a long time, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. Something going on in my neighborhood, something around my business. It's been going on a long time. And I'll ask the question, have you ever called dispatch on it? And they'll say no. Well, you calling dispatch helps us create the data that we need in order to then put resources in those areas, because everything we're doing from a police perspective is very much heavily data driven. Yeah. So if we know that there's a high volume of calls occurring in this particular area for this particular reason, that helps us then determine how much more resources we need to put there. So I encourage people, as a frequent caller of the non-emergency line myself, I encourage them, because it's a data point. And we need to know. So if you're experiencing this issue, it's happening frequently, your neighbors are talking about it, well, then our dispatch center should know about it so we can make sure that's on our list.
Yeah, for sure. And everything we do is recorded. So every phone call that comes in, every radio traffic transmission, everything the dispatchers do is recorded and saved, and there is a record of it. And to your point, law enforcement can pull those records and see, what are the hot areas, what are the problem areas, and they can classify all of that. And in my time with the police department, they very much use that to make decisions on how they want to do saturated patrols and things like that.
Yeah. Nicole Brown, you're doing a good job.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Thanks for the education and understanding today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I love to talk about 911, so anytime I get an opportunity is a great day.
Great guest. That's what I love. People who are passionate about it, you can feel it, and they know their stuff, and they're out there advocating for their people and what they're doing because they're doing really important jobs. So
yeah, we have an amazing team. I will say that anytime I am going before a city council or county commission and asking for something for them, it's never a question. Everyone's like, yeah, our 911 professionals are great. We'll do whatever we need to. And I always tell my people that's because of the work they do every day. They have built a really trusting relationship with our community because every day they're professional and they are there when people need them. So I love them all so much. They do a great job.
Well, I will tell you this, and I wish every business owner or CEO or chairperson had the same attitude that you have, that every day they've got to come with 100%. And I think if that expectation is the expectation each day, people are more willing to work towards that because I need you here 100% every day. Your job is too critical.
Yeah.
And you've got to be top of the game. So, and then that goes into their own taking care of themselves when they're not at work, because the only way you can be 100% at work is to take care of yourself when you're not at work. And then if you're doing those things right, you're probably living a pretty good life.
Yeah, that's a hard one, though. I found with first responders, just in general, because they're caretakers of other people, sometimes they don't always prioritize themselves. And dispatchers do it too.
Sure.
And so as their leader, I really try hard to keep some sort of wellness program going and make sure they have access to things that they need. But that's always an ongoing thing. Everyone responds to stress differently at different times. So, that's a trickier thing to cover, but I really try my hardest to make sure that they have what they need so that they can continue. Like, that's how I view it, right? If I support them, then they can support the community.
Sure.
So.
All right. Nicole Brown, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you all for joining us. We hope you found this educational in San Juan County Communications Authority and the work that they're doing. We appreciate our dispatchers, our call takers, everybody who's involved in that process and making sure that we get help where help is needed. So thank you for joining us here today, and we'll see you here next time on the Mayor's Table.